All right, in this section and today we're going to be talking about linear functions. And slope-intercept form. Linear functions and slope-intercept form. So let's say here that the slope of a non-vertical line is the ratio of vertical change we're going to say y to horizontal change. And that's your x. Alright, and another way of saying that is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Where x sub 2 minus x sub 1 is not equal to 0. So in the first part of this section, you're going to be given information about a line and you're going to be asked to find the slope. So right now we're asked, what is the slope of the line that passes through the given points? Yes. X, that says where x2 minus x1 is not equal to 0. What is the slope of the line that passes through the given points? And in example A right here, we got the points
Teachers, please excuse the interruption. For those teachers who had a tester, I sent out an email directly to you last night. So if you would please double check your test list and send any of those students who might be physically present in your class to the testing room at this time. Once again, those people who are directly affected by testing have an email from me. Please send those students directly to testing at this time.
Anybody in here supposed to be testing today? Shannon Zara, she's not in this class, is she? Alright, so we're going to find the slope of a line that passes through these points. So this right up here, here's our slope formula. So what I recommend you do is label the points. Here's our x sub 1 and our y sub 1, and our x sub 2 and our y sub 2. So the slope of this line, and another term or letter used to represent slope in algebra is m. So m, which is our slope, is going to be equal to y sub 2, which is 4, minus y sub 1, which is 7, over or divided by negative 2 minus negative 3. Alright, notice in this slope formula that you're finding the difference in the y's divided by the difference in the x's. Be very careful when you're dealing with negatives, because as you can see, your x sub 2 minus your x sub 1 is negative 2 minus a negative 3. Alright, so 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Negative 2 minus negative 3. You can type it into your calculator, or I don't know if you guys learned keep, change when you're subtracting a negative. So keep the first value the same, and we change the subtraction and the negative. So negative 2 plus 3 would be positive 1. And negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. So the slope of this line is negative 3. Let's do one more. Let's try 7, negative 3. And 7, 1. Oh, this will be interesting. You notice anything about the x values? They're the same, right? Okay. So here's what this would look like. If you're trying to find your slope and you got your x1, y1 and your x2, y2, in the numerator you got 1 minus negative 3. And in the denominator you got 7 minus 7. So look, up top if you keep, change, you get 4. In the denominator, 7 minus 7 is equal to 0. Now, when there's a 0 in the denominator, that's called undefined. Alright, so in this case, the slope would be undefined. When the slope is undefined, this is a vertical line. When the slope is undefined, or when there's a 0 in the denominator, it's a vertical line. And let's look at one more example where we got 3, 1 and negative 4, 1. And we label these x1, y1. And our m is going to be equal to 1 minus 1 in the numerator, negative 4 minus 3 in the denominator. 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Negative 4 minus 3 is equal to negative 7. 0 in the numerator is equal to 0. 0 in the numerator is always equal to 0. This is a horizontal line. And if you take a calculator, and back here example B, if I push 4 divided by 0, calculator screen says error. Error in the calculator is the same as undefined. Alright? But if you take 0 and you divide it by 7 negative and you hit equals, 0 divided by anything is equal to 0. Okay? So your calculator can help you remember the difference if you can't remember the difference. Alright, so let's draw a couple little graphs here. Alright, we're going to talk first about positive slope. Lines that have a positive slope. X-axis, y-axis. Positive sloped lines. They go up and to the right. They go up and to the right. Positive sloped lines. If a line's got a positive slope, it goes up and to the right. The steepness of the line will be determined by the slope. Negative slope lines. They go up and left. Negative slope lines, they go up and to the left. So anything like this, it's got a negative slope. Alright, and then we said that a 0 slope is a horizontal line. So right here, horizontal lines, they got a slope of 0. Your M is equal to 0. And when the slope is undefined, that's a vertical line. So you got positive, negative, 0, and undefined. 4 different slopes. Those are the directions of the lines for each. Alright, a function whose graph is a line is a linear function. And written in the following forms. A function whose graph is a line is a linear function, and written in the following forms. You've seen it for a while. Y equals mx plus b. Alright, you could see it as y equals 2x plus 4. You could see it as the function of x is equal to negative 3x minus 1. Those are all linear functions. Function of x equals 1/2 x. It's either y equals something to, times x. All right, look, another linear function could be the function of x equals 3. All right, that's a linear function. Just like y is equal to -2. That's a linear function. It's going to be a line. X equals 5. That's a line as well. All right, these y equals a number. If the equation is y equals just a number, or f of x just equals a number, okay? When all the y values are the same, that is a horizontal line. Any line in the form of x equals, those are all vertical lines. Okay, slope-intercept form of a line. Slope-intercept form of a line is when the line is in the form of y equals mx plus b, or f of x equals mx plus b. Whatever is sitting between the equal sign and the x represents the value of m, and that's the slope of the line. Whatever is sitting between the equal sign and the x, when your equation is in the form y equals mx plus b, is the slope of the line. When the equation is in this form, f of x equals mx plus b, or y equals mx plus b, whatever is to the right of the x, whatever's out here, this is called your y-intercept. That's where the line touches the y-axis. So when we're in this form, anything to the right of the x, right out here, the plus or minus sign will make a difference. That's your y-intercept. Whatever's out here, whether it be positive or negative, that's where your line is going to touch the y-axis. All right, so then in the second part of your assignment today, you're going to be given some information. You're going to be asked to write the equation of each line. Write the equation of each line. So example A, you're given the m. The m is 1/5. And the y-intercept, the y-intercept is at 0, -3. So if we got to write the equation for this line, we're going to start off by saying y equals, since the m represents the slope and our m is 1/5, it goes just to the right of the equal sign. Then we write the letter x. And your y-intercept, this hits the y-axis at 0, -3. This is your x value, this is your y value. So your y-intercept's at -3, so -3. There's your equation of the line. If you are given the line on a graph and you're asked to write the equation of the line, and let's say the line looks something like this. All right, we got a line going up and to the left, and it hits the y-axis at +4. You need the equation of the line, so you need the slope and the y-intercept. Well, there's your y-intercept. Your y-intercept is +4. So in order to find your slope, just use the slope formula. Your m is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1. All right. If we call this point our x sub 1 and our x sub 2, and this other point, the y-intercept, the coordinates there are 0, 4. And that's not x sub 1, x sub 2, is it? That's x sub 1 and y sub 1. Sorry about that. This second point would be our x sub 2 and our y sub 2. So our y sub 2 minus our y sub 1 would be 4 minus 1. And our x sub 2 minus our x sub 1 would be 0 minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3, 0 minus 1 is -1, and 3 divided by -1 is -3. So now you have your slope and your y-intercept. So your equation for this line is going to be y equals the slope, which is -3, and the letter x, and then the y-intercept, and that's at +4. So there's your equation of that line. All right, a couple more examples to talk about. All right, again, we're going to rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form. List the slope and y-intercept. All right, so our first example is an equation that reads 5x minus 4y equals 16. And we need this in slope-intercept form, which means we need it in the form of y equals something times x plus or minus something else. Y equals mx plus b. So we're going to start by, we're going to get the y on the left-hand side of the equal sign by itself. So we got to subtract 5x from each side. Now, since slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, whatever number is attached to this x, we're just going to move it in next to the equal sign in this next step, because that's where it's got to go in the long run. So the -4y falls down, and we're going to take this -5x and we're going to insert it to the right of the equal sign. And this 16 is a positive 16, so we write plus 16. And that's a super important step, because now you only got one thing left to do, and that's divide everything in the equation by -4. So we divide by -4, -4, and -4. And on the left-hand side, this all cancels out, and you're just left with your y. Now, if your slope is a fraction, leave it as a fraction. If it can be simplified to a whole number, then simplify it. But in this case, it can't. What you do have to simplify here is the negative divided by the negative. So -5 divided by -4 becomes positive 5/4 x. And then positive 16 divided by -4, that's a -4. And there's your equation in slope-intercept form. The slope is your m. That's 5/4. Your y-intercept is -4. So that's a line that goes up and to the right, and it hits the y-axis at -4. And we're going to do that one more time. All right, we got negative 3/4 x plus 1/2 y equals -1. We got to write it in slope-intercept form, and we got to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So here we're going to add 3/4 x to each side. So 1/2 y is equal to 3/4 x minus 1. Then we're going to divide everything in the equation by 1/2. So on the left-hand side, we get y equals 3/4 divided by 1/2. That's 1 1/2. 1 1/2, let's change that to an improper fraction. 1 1/2, that's 3/2 x. And then -1 divided by 1/2. That's -2. So there's your equation in slope-intercept form. Your slope is equal to 3/2. Your y-intercept is equal to -2. All right, and then the last thing you're gonna have to do in this section is you're gonna be given the line. You're gonna be given the line in this form. All right, and the direction are going to be to what is the graph of the line. So if you're given the line in this form, you'll put it into slope-intercept form. All right. If you're asked to graph this equation, you'll put it in slope-intercept form first, and then you'll graph it. Okay? You'll put this in slope-intercept form first, and then you'll graph it. All right? So here's what the graph of this example B would look like. You don't have to do a ton of work on your graphs. Don't take forever drawing them, because look, here's what's important. What's important is that you know the difference between your x and y axis. This line hits the y-axis at -2, so make sure that that point is very clear on your graph. So here's -2. There's where it hits the y-axis. The line has a positive slope. All right? Now, we didn't mention it earlier, but slope also means rise over run. Okay? Super important. Rise over run. But your rise is the same as your change in vertical, and your run is the same as change in horizontal. So what you can do when you're graphing these is you can just rise. Look, your slope is 3/2. So from this point, from -2, that's where the line hits the y-axis. You can rise 3, which is 1, 2, 3 units. And then you can run 2 units. And since the slope is positive, we're going to run to the right. So we're going to run to the right 1, 2 units. So here's our second point. All right? And then you can rise, look, you rise 1, 2, 3, and you run 1, 2, and here's your third point. And then you connect those. And there's your graph of the line. That's all you got to do to graph them. Just do your rise and run once, do your rise and your run twice, and then connect the dots. There's your rise of 3 and your run of 2, your rise of 3 and your run of 2. And let's I want to graph one with a negative slope. Let's try this. Let's just let's graph the equation. Four x minus 7y equals 14. Hang in there, it's our last example. Alright, so we subtract 4x first. Alright, do this real quick. In this original equation right here, change this 4x minus 7 to 4x plus 7. So we're subtracting 4x from each side. We get 7y equals negative 4x plus 14. We're going to divide everything by 7. Sevens on the left cancel. So we get y equals negative 4/7 x plus 2. There it is in slope-intercept form. So when we graph this, here's our x-axis and our y-axis. Our line hits the y-axis at positive 2. So we're going to put positive 2 on the graph. And our slope is negative 4/7. Alright? So if our slope is always rise over run, we know that a negative slope line's got to go up and to the left. So in this case, we're going to rise 4, we're going to run 7. So look, we rise, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's our second point. Then we're going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright? Just rise and run twice. And then you connect the dots. So here's our graph of the line. Just do your rise once, do your rise once, and then twice. Rise and run 2 times. Negative slope lines go up and to the left. Positive slope lines go up and to the right. Good with that, I hope? Alright, I made some copies for you again this week. I got, Yeah, I got copies for you this week for your practice. So your practice for today is going to be page 78, which is a handout. And you're going to do problems 11 through 33. All right, when you're done with all of those problems and you have your notes in front of you, then I want you to check focus for a homework assignment. Alright, homeworks and makeup quizzes, those are listed under alerts. If you were absent Friday, you've got 7 days from Friday to make up that quiz, and then that quiz will close and it'll be gone forever. Alright? Alright, so that's all I got for you for today. I'm going to stop this recording.